Hey everyone, Waypoint here. Recently, me and a couple of friends have been wondering whether or not Arkham Batman could survive the events of Spider-Man PS4. When accounting for all of his equipment and skills, I really just want to discuss how he would deal with the catalog of villains Spider-Man has to contend with in this game. As per usual, there will not be much of a story in this, and I will be more along going with over how I think Batman would survive in a gauntlet style type fight against the majority of Spider-Man's villains from the first game, while explaining some of the changes that it would in turn have in the story. Basically, we're just going to be taking Batman from the end of Arkham Knight and with all of his equipment, with all of his skills, with all of his vehicles and gadgets, and place him into the Insomniac Spider-Man universe with the caveat that he will only have the base knowledge of a person living in the Insomniac universe. This is to give him some information about what he will be dealing with and make it not as convoluted as to say that, oh yeah, he could solo the entire universe with Prep Time Debacle. We will also be switching all of the game's events to be happening in the nighttime as to have Batman in his own natural element and make it a little bit easier for him. Arkham Batman has been stated to be a genius in most known forms of martial arts, trained to the peak of his mental and physical capabilities, and he also has been shown to defeat dozens of hardened criminals at once, including superhuman Titan junkies. This would really help him in fighting any of the villains that have a large amount of henchmen under their wing and be able to really make it like a pseudo one-on-one fight because most of the henchmen wouldn't really be a problem for him. Him being Batman also has a very highly technical mind, and an example being showcased in his fight with Mr. Freeze where he could only use a technique once before Mr. Freeze would block that method from being used again in that fight. Arkham Batman has also managed to fight Lady Shiva to a standstill, while outnumbered, showcasing how advanced his skill in combat is. He has also been shot, beaten, poisoned, blown up, mentally tortured, and so much else, and still has been able to push through that without having too much of a real big problem. Being a master detective, his reasoning and deductive skills are second to none, though his detective vision can also see through walls, fingerprints, footprints, and find bullets and tracing like in full trajectories and everything else like that. That just is a little help for the thing that he can already do without any real help at all. When it comes to his equipment, it consists of a dozen different types of batarangs, really, gas mask, explosive gels capable of blasting holes through weakened walls, flashbangs, smoke bombs, and more prominently, the Batmobile and other things like that. But in all honesty, through assassins, Arkham inmates, a prison city, and so much other things, Arkham Batman has managed to survive it all. So I wonder, could he survive being dropped into another universe and dealing with a whole new catalog of threats? Well, that's what we're going to be here to discuss. So, if we really get started, we get started with the henchman fight. I call this the henchman fight because before we actively talk about any of the main fights, I first want to say that I will be considering almost all of the fights as a one-on-one because of the fact that even if we involved multiple henchmen attacking at the same time, it really wouldn't be able to do too much difference because we've seen Arkham Batman be able to clear large groups of people by himself without really any difficulty. So I will consider everything as a one-on-one because no matter really how many extra henchmen that will be around, he will be able to deal with them without having to really be bothered to like distract himself from his main objective and his main point. So that's not really going to be too much of a real big issue. So I just wanted to like specifically say that I would just be considering all of these due to like a one-on-one situation because he would be too smart to let himself get caught into like a disadvantaged situation. The first actual fight that we would have would be Kingpin, aka Wilson Fisk. Kingpin has a large muscular frame, making him incredibly strong and resilient. He has also been shown to be able to use his bare hands to break stone, cave in deep pipes, and hurl men through brick walls. He has also withstood concrete that Spider-Man has thrown at him and survived a fall from several stories. Fisk's agility and dexterity are also things that shouldn't be scoffed at, being honed by years of training. While Fisk may be incredibly strong, many of the villains from Arkham's games would most likely equal or surpass Fisk in terms of strength and speed. Between Killer Croc, Bane, or even the Titan-enhanced villains, Kingpin's strength just does not compare to what Arkham Batman has dealt with, along with the fact that Batman's martial arts skills would allow him to evade most of Kingpin's attacks in the same way that Spider-Man was able to, and be able to use a lot of his gadgets to either slow Fisk down or just incapacitate him all there together. The next person that Arkham Batman would have to go against would be the Shocker. While he has a full bodysuit equipped with gauntlets that emit vibrations that create high frequency air blast, being able to throw long range punches, varying strength, and capable of either shattering concrete with his gauntlets, Batman would still be able to actively take him out without very much of a big challenge. Even with his high-tech suit and everything, the Shocker is still able to do this and would not really be too much of a threat for Arkham Batman due to him having insane agility and being able to most likely dodge the blast long enough to figure out the basics of how his tech works and either just disrupt it and use his tech to simply find a way to just take it down, or just really use an EMP to take him down way faster than he normally would be able to. While this is a new kind of threat, it wouldn't be really too far out of the normal craziness that he has to deal with, so it wouldn't be very hard for him to pull out a win. Tombstone would be next up on the docket for Arkham Batman to fight. Tombstone possesses superhuman strength and is able to lift heavy objects with ease. His main strength is his invulnerability, extending to the point of being able to take a gunshot to the head without any noticeable harm, and without feeling really not any pain or anything prior to Spider-Man using his counter drug. Aside from these skills, he's also proficient in hand-to-hand combat and firearms, but my honest opinion would be Batman would really struggle with this match due to him not really being able to, one, know anything about the counter drug that Spider-Man was able to use on him to nullify his invulnerability, and that fact alone would make it nearly impossible for Arkham Batman to be able to take the win. No matter how strong you think Arkham Batman may be, I don't think that there is any way for him to be able to break through Tombstone's invulnerability, and even if Batman attempted to use the same method that he used on Joker and use explosive gel to coat his hands, I still don't think that would be enough to really harm or take him down. At best, he would maybe be able to incapacitate Tombstone via using his freeze blast and containing him that way, but I don't even know if that would work perfectly well or how long that would be able to hold. In all fairness, I just really don't think and see a way for Batman to be able to take Tombstone out, because of the fact that there's not really much that he would be able to do to cause any way for that to happen. The Taskmaster fight, on the other hand, would be a little different in my opinion, in terms of how hard it would be. Taskmaster is a highly skilled mercenary whose main ability is his reflexes and his photoreflective memory. He's able to observe and assess the repetitions between his target's combatant maneuvers and develop his own countermeasures against them through anticipating their movements. We've seen him watch Spider-Man's movements and be able to notice that he favored his right leg, so he would be able to just completely avoid and work around everything that he was doing. Taskmaster is also a master combatant, acrobat, marksman, and has gone toe-to-toe with the Avengers. He has access to a vast array of advanced technology, weapons, and a very good supply of funds, but that's really not going to be a big problem for Batman. In all fairness, Arkham Batman would have a lot of fun with this fight, mainly due to the fact that this would be something that would remind him of a previous fight, specifically with Deathstroke in Arkham Origins. While Taskmaster might seem like he would have the edge, Arkham Batman would be able to fight without much difficulty due to the extensive fighting knowledge that he has, and due to how he knows his body so well that I honestly see him not being able to make a Taskmaster even be able to follow his movements. Yes, he is so good that he probably has some normal moves that he goes to, but he can just switch martial arts styles while he's fighting. So Taskmaster would never be able to actively be able to like pinpoint exactly what he's doing. It would seem like it's random, but it's not. So he would be able to figure that out. And Batman's abilities and tech that he has is just way too much for Taskmaster to even be able to fathom handling in any specific way. But with that said, now we could actively get into the actual Sinister Six fights. First off, starting off with the Vulture. He has the ability to fly at speeds up to like 95 miles per hour and launch energized knife-like projectiles from his wingtips. His age does give him low stamina, as we've seen during his fight with Spider-Man, in which he regularly has to take stops and momentary breaks to catch his breath. Arkham Batman would be able to use this lack of stamina in his own advantage to be able to take him out fairly easily, and would be able to really take this battle out in a very different plethora of ways. Least of all, just being able to use his sonic batarangs to distract and disorient the Vulture, and potentially like hacking into his tech and just fully gaining control of it. There are so many different ways that I see Arkham Batman being able to take out the Vulture, but in every single way, there is not really much of a problem that he would ever have with a fight like this, with this fight whatsoever. The Electro fight would be a completely different story though. Being a living electrical capacitor, he is capable of releasing high voltages. He can also store up to 1,000,000 volts and discharge them like lightning blast. This would be a really hard fought battle for Arkham Batman due to him most likely not being able to avoid Electro's blast. After a lot of discussion, the only way that I could even see this going would result in Batman's death. While many people might disagree, but it is an undeniable fact that Spider-Man PS4 villains are strong compared to some of Arkham's villains. And Electro's abilities are just way too much for Batman to be able to handle without any kind of time to prepare and exactly know what would be going on. You could disagree as much as you want, but I don't think Batman would be able to dodge enough of Electro's attacks, and even if he gets hit once, it would still be over for him. Yes, we've seen him be able to tank extremely high damage-dealing attacks, but I still just don't think that he would be able to actively tank Electro going full out in just a full Electro blast, even like that, even anyone normally would be able to not be able to deal with. This would just be a fight that Electro would be able to sweep without really much of an actual problem. Rhino would be a fight that Batman wouldn't really have too much of a problem with due to the fact that his superhuman strength and his suit wouldn't really be too much of an issue. Rhino in all terms would just basically be a version of Bane, or a version of like something like the Titan Henchmen, or any specific things like that. Batman has been able to beat things like Solomon Grundy, beat Bane, beat the Titan Henchmen, and Rhino's strength wouldn't really be too much above that, or even anywhere near close to like as hard as they would be compared to that. And we've seen that Rhino has a weakness to electricity, so Batman would be able to use his electrified gauntlets to be able to take Rhino down. And in terms of strength, as I've already said, Rhino wouldn't most likely be in the highest tiers of people that Batman has had to face, and he would be fast enough to evade and maneuver out of Rhino's attacks due to how big he is. Batman would be able to evade and move out, and I really just see that this goes in the way of Batman being able to take this fight on fairly easily without any real big problems or repercussions. When it comes to Scorpion, while he wears a full bodysuit that possesses claws and a cybernetically controlled mechanical tail that holds a poisonous stinger, this wouldn't be an extremely hard-fought battle for Batman due to the fact that I could honestly see this going either way. While I don't think Scorpion would be able to land a hit with his stinger onto Batman, if he did, that could really cause an issue. We've seen Batman be able to deal with things like the fear toxin, and this would be something similar but lethal. While Batman would be able to dodge a majority of his attacks eventually subdue Scorpion if he had made any mistakes, Scorpion would be able to take him down. As I've said, Batman could easily most likely dodge a good portion of the attacks, but there is a possibility that Scorpion might be able to land a hit on him, but we just can't tell that for sure. 9 times out of 10, Batman would most likely survive this and not get hit, but there is, in all opinions, at least 1 out of 10 that he might get hit by the Stinger, have to deal with the entire thing of the hallucinogenic neurotoxin that would just be very similar to something like the fear toxin that he already has been able to deal with previously. I see him being able to deal with this fight without too much of an issue most of the time. Mr. Negative would be a fight that is very similar to that of Scorpion and the Scarecrow. I only say this because of the fact that he possesses the abilities to control a highly destructive electrical negative energy, which he uses to project powerful blasts from his hands and charge up swords, combining the dark powers like with swordsmanship and the skills of battle. While Mr. Negative also displays physical attributes in terms of like reflexes, resilience, and strength, his main ability would be the fact that he can inflict negative emotions onto people. And I really say that this is the main issue because of the fact that this would be, as again, another version of the fear toxin that Batman would have to be able to deal with. This would be an extremely hard fought battle for him because of the fact of how strong Mr. Negative's abilities are. This would eventually end up in Batman's win most likely, but there is a very good chance that Batman wouldn't even come out of this one alive. Mr. Negative's abilities are just something that Batman really wouldn't have been able to see the extents of and be able to actively ever seen anything similar to it to be even able to think that he could survive it. Mr. Negative's abilities are just way too powerful that most of the time Batman could possibly survive this by just being who he normally is and probably being able to like resist a good portion of how Mr. Negative's abilities works, but there is a good possibility that Mr. Negative would just overpower Batman in so many different ways. This is just obviously my opinion, but Mr. Negative has a very good likelihood of possibly being able to take out Arkham Batman without very much difficulty if he plays his cards right. But most of the time, Arkham Batman would probably be able to take him down, especially after spending enough time learning how his abilities work and learning exactly what he needs to do to deal with things easier. Doc Ock would probably be one of the more simpler fights in my opinion, due to the fact that this isn't something so far out of Arkham Batman's wheelhouse. This is just some guy with a very advanced technology on his back, but he would easily be able to most likely dodge and avoid a lot of Doc Ock's abilities and attacks, and probably be able to either somehow, like I've heard this before, like most likely he wouldn't be able to like use an EMP to like just completely take it down, but he still does have so many different things that would really be able to help him out. He could most likely utilize something like the shock gauntlets that I've already mentioned previously to be able to most likely just easily electrocute him to the point that he would just be incapacitated and knocked out. Or if this fight actively proved to be more of a challenge than he was expecting, he could use something like the fear toxin that he already has on him and try just implementing it into Doc Ock's entire bloodstream to actively cause the living fear of God into him, just being able to subdue him due to that fact. Obviously, Doc Ock wouldn't have ever faced anything like this before and would be completely freaked out to the point that he would be able to be taken out and lose so quickly if anything was like to happen in that. This wouldn't be too much of a problem for Batman to be able to do because of the fact that most of his villains, one, are stronger than Doc Ock, and two, him just being able to maneuver around so quickly and have his agility as the level that it is, he would be able to do so much different things to be able to take out Doc Ock and take him out fairly easily at that. While I could probably guess that you guys have been waiting for me to discuss the Sinister Six fight, there is a 0% possibility that this fight would even ever possibly happen. I only say this due to the fact that this is Batman we're talking about, and not just any Batman. This is Arkham Batman we're talking about. There is a 0% possibility that any version of Batman lets himself get caught into a situation that is a 6v1. There is 0% chance that that happens. So at most, he would just have to fight the villains again one-on-one, if anything like that was even to even possibly take place. Because my honest opinion is that there isn't even a possibility for a Sinister Six fight to happen, because they just all are out of commission, or all just don't want to deal with him in the first place, because this is a guy that would put the living fear of God into you. But if you want to sit here and say that, oh yeah, there will still be a Sinister Six fight, the only possible outcome of this fight is Batman's death. As I've already stated, Electro is too much for Arkham Batman to handle. He would not be able to survive Electro alone. And combining him with something like Scorpion, Mr. Negative, or any of the people that are on the Sinister Six, he would die almost instantly. The people on the Sinister Six are just way too much for Arkham Batman to even be thinking about handling, and it's not even close. They're just way too strong for him, and you could say as much as you want, but Arkham Batman would die to the Sinister Six if he had to fight them all at once. Spider-Man was basically beaten and bruised after having to deal with them, and there's a 0% possibility that Batman wouldn't be anything else but dead. So, in full conclusion, could Arkham Batman survive Spider-Man PS4? Most likely not. There are just way too many actual problems for him to be able to deal with, for him to even think about being able to survive Spider-Man PS4 without a reasonable amount of prep time. And I mean a reasonable amount of prep time. He would have to completely know everything about these villains and be able to completely make countermeasures against each and every one of them to even think about being able to take them out. In normal stances, if you just like plop him in and give him like the base knowledge, there's a 0% chance that he survives due to the fact of him not being able to contend with the strength of these villains. Most of these villains rank higher and scale way higher to like comparisons of the Arkham Batman villains, and I'm not a power scaler, so you can do all of the things that you guys want to do in the comments and like tell me how I'm wrong, or tell me like why you guys think that he would survive. But in all fairness, there's not really much of a possibility for him even to think about surviving in any possible way. There are some possibilities where he's able to like survive a good portion of the villains, but as I've said, Electro is just way too much for him to be able to deal with. And even if he was able to survive Electro, there are just way too many extenuating circumstances that would have him be like, oh yeah, I perfectly easily survive this and have no problems. He would just be really screwed in a lot of different ways. But with all of that said and done, please tell me your opinions, thoughts, and comment down below. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel. If you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to check out other videos on my channel. I post content like this as often as I can, and if you guys have any video ideas for me, please drop them down in the comment section below, and I will listen to them. But with all that said and done, I hope you guys enjoy your day. Peace.